Parts of Michigan getting their first taste of winter this morning. Snow falling earlier than usual this year, dusting cars, grass, and trees with at least an inch of snow. This is up in the UP, the first the first accumulating snow of the season usually comes in mid-October. So we're not talking about crazy early, but a few days early to say the least. And the UP of Michigan on our wintry side, when we talk about the battle of the season, the dueling seasons, we've got the cool across the west and then up into the UP of Michigan, areas in the east and southeast in particular, up against the well above average temperatures. 30 degrees either way. That's what you could be looking at this weekend. So big discrepancies compared to what you would see on average this time of year. In Bismarck, you would expect temps around 63. That's your average. But how about 30s coming your way Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday? By next Friday, we're back to 40, and that'll probably feel like a warm-up after the cool week you're in store for. In Casper, Wyoming, the average high is 64. Look at next Wednesday, 32 degrees below average. That's where you'll be by the middle of next week. And you can see much of the coming, I guess, 2 weeks are spent in the 30s. So, Mark, you like the cold, you're in good hands.
How often do you get to say that? Not only is the high 32, but it's also 32 degrees below average.
So you've made the people of Casper feel a lot better because now you have something to brag about.
You can brag about that.
Yeah.
We're at the freezing line, but we got some cool stats for you. See what I did there?
Makes it worth it.
Cool stats.
I got you.
We're moving on because you might need some heat. It's a totally different scene on the East Coast. Atlanta, as an example, feels like summer. It does not feel like fall. I personally may be going to a pumpkin patch tomorrow, and I said I'm wearing the parka and I'm drinking the spiced apple cider and the whole deal, even though it's going to be 90-something degrees again. We'll see. It is just as cold as it is in the west. It's just as hot in the east. 20, even 30 degrees above average through the weekend into early next week. In fact, this heat kind of expands further as we go into early next week. So we're not done with the warmth. Look at these stats, right? This is Atlanta. Today's high was 92, third day in a row of 90s. It's a tied record for the number of 90-degree days in October in a row. The latest 90 was October 9th. Now, it doesn't look like we'll get there necessarily, but it does appear we'll get our fourth day in the streak, and that will be a new record. I believe 5 is the magic number for the most 90-degree days in Atlanta in an entire month of October. So we'll see if we can get there. It's going to stay warm, just not as warm as we go through the week ahead into early next week, eventually dropping to below average temperatures by, say, the middle of the upcoming week, because you got 10 days or so to deal with it. Charlotte, average high 75, not this week, maybe next week for your temperatures that'll be more seasonable. And that's just how it is right now. It is a big switch depending on what side of the country you're on, Alex.
And the changes in weather could play a factor in quite a few football games this weekend. Here in Boulder, Colorado, the Buffaloes take on the Arizona Sun Devils, and we're thinking the Buffaloes may have a bit of an advantage here.
I would think so.
Yeah.
You never want to say, that other team can't play in, some other weather condition, right. But Arizona doesn't get to play in 40 degrees and raining all that often.
Yeah, going to be awfully chilly as we look at that forecast. How about 40s and low 50s through that game?
Yeah, and some showers as well.
Often dealing with.
It's not what they're infamous for, right? They're hoping for the 90s, which almost all of the SEC will have to deal with in that hot side of things. Look at number 1, Alabama taking on Arkansas. This one not as warm, only because you're right along that border with the chance for thunderstorms. So be wary, be weather aware for that one, as you may have to scurry away from the field if the storms get too close.
And listen to the announcements. If they say go, you gotta go. In Athens, this is one of those games, Mark, you were talking about. Vanderbilt in town, and temps at the start will be very close to those mid and upper 80s.
7:30 p.m. start, and it's still going to be upper 80s.
Yeah, pretty incredible.
This time of year, nothing says, October football like that, but this Big Ten weather, this is what I'm talking about. Now it's football weather, right? Let's tailgate in that.
Cool, and clouds, we're in.
Yep.
Because you know why? It's a lot more comfortable to go to a game in sweatpants.
Right.
And you're going to stay comfortable.
Plus, you're going to eat 20 brats first.
Yeah,
so
you got to have room to expand, right, people? Let's pick one more. Ann Arbor, Michigan. Maryland in town to take on the Wolverines. This one a little milder, but again, chance of showers and thunderstorms.
And so again, those thunderstorms could send you scurrying off the field. Those big signs will light up saying you got to go. And if that happens, you got to go.
Yeah. Don't try to be cool. Be cool and listen to the directions. Miami Gardens in Florida.
Florida versus Florida.
Oh.
Florida versus Miami, I guess. Florida State versus.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying.
It's an interstate rivalry.
A rebuilding year, you could argue, for FSU. Miami, however, number 17. So we'll see. You know, this is a rivalry game. You never know, even on a bad year.
Everybody brings it. And those temps in the upper 80s, so not unusual to either team. All right, we've got a live look at Gainesville, Florida, where the Florida Gators and LSU face off tomorrow at 3:30.
And Paul Goodlow will be there live for our college football coverage.
It's the first full weekend of October, which means college football is well underway. Doesn't feel like fall, though. Join us tomorrow morning live from Gainesville, Florida. We're here with our friends with SEC Nation talking all things weather and football tomorrow morning. AMHQ Weekend and Weekend Recharge.
I see Paul got the beard memo as well.
Yeah, and his face should really be on that bus.
It should be.
Just saying.
Speaking of going back through forensic meteorology, or at least in the way back machine of meteorology, we can draw some clues on what might happen with our little invest area by looking almost exactly a year ago.
Yeah, so we don't have to go all that far back in history to know that the system that's trying to get going in the Western Caribbean can spell trouble. The Western Caribbean, Gulf of Mexico, in early October, first 10 days or so, can be a hot spot for development. And when those systems form in the Western Caribbean, they tend to come north. And just a year ago, even right about now, we had Nate forming in the southwestern Caribbean as a tropical depression, went across Nicaragua, Honduras as a tropical storm, got into the Gulf of Mexico, and then strengthened to a hurricane, made landfall near the mouth of the Mississippi River as a Category 1 hurricane. And you might not remember, though, that the name Nate was retired after the 2017 hurricane season, largely because of the large loss of life in Central America due to the heavy rainfall, the flash floods and mudslides. But we also saw some significant water problems in places like Biloxi, where we had a significant storm surge. Wasn't to the scope and magnitude of Katrina, but still, it was a hurricane. And, we have both of these areas in play this time, Mark and Alex, because we've got Central America dealing with the beginnings of what could become another depression or storm in the Gulf of Mexico later. And we've got the potential to have a storm. Can't rule out a hurricane next week.
You know, that one, Nate seemed like it was a little bit better organized at this point in its life cycle.
Do you
think this can catch up?
It could, because unfortunately it has plenty of time to do that. It has all weekend in the northwestern Caribbean and then a few days over the Gulf of Mexico. So let's take a look at the situation right now. We've got areas of low pressure near the surface on both sides of Central America, and it's the broad area of low pressure in the northwest Caribbean that has a chance to form this weekend. Maybe a 40% chance over the next couple of days, according to the Hurricane Center. And if you give it 5 days, it's a 70% chance, including the time that it could form over the Gulf of Mexico. The East Pacific system could come ashore and contribute to, again, another very dangerous rainfall and flooding event in Central America. And when you add up all the rain over the next many days, we could be talking feet of rainfall down there in Central America. So I really hope this doesn't end up being a repeat of Nate and be as dangerous as it was last time. But we've got the potential, as you look at the European model, of this developing in the Gulf of Mexico and strengthening. So it could end up being as strong as Nate was.
All right, something that we definitely have to watch.
Yeah.
That means you can't, put your guard down for this weekend, because you know that once these models start running, things could change with the placement of them.
Absolutely. A lot can change between now and then. And we've got plenty more on that invest headed up towards the Gulf coming up on the show. The tropics, though, not the only place we're watching for downpours.
Yeah, the Midwest could have a soaking again. We show you where the flash flood risk comes up this weekend.
Alert again after a day of destructive flash flooding yesterday. More rain on the way, and we'll tell you who could be seeing up to 5 inches of rain by Sunday. Plus, the Atlantic hurricane season not over yet. Breaking today, we've got a new invest in the Caribbean. Dr. Nab, we could be seeing history repeat itself in the Gulf.
Yeah, history teaches us we've got to watch this one very carefully. I'll show you what the chances are of this becoming our next depression or storm and what part of the Gulf of Mexico could be headed to next.
Plus, red states versus blue states, but no politics here. Who is seeing fall and even a taste of winter? And on the other side of the aisle, an extended summer that just won't end. A look at who could see a heat wave in October.
They may even try and sometimes use the weather to try and cover up a crime, but it always comes back to haunt them.
Plus, weather is always a witness. We go behind the scenes of the Weather Channel's new show, Storm of Suspicion, and show you how investigators use the weather to solve serious crimes.
And they use hats as well to solve those crimes.
As we said, Reynolds has that hat.
Yeah, that means he's in on it.
He's
a detective.
He's either part sheriff or part criminal. We haven't decided.
We haven't decided. Hey, welcome into Weather Underground. I'm Alex Wilson.
I'm Mark Elliott. New developments in the tropics tonight, and the current weather pattern is part of the reason why.
Yeah, the weather, it's pretty wonky right now, to say the least. In the west, we've got snow in the Rockies. In the east, they're burning up. Temperatures 20 degrees above average in spots. And Mark, all of this is connected. So don't think, well, that's not fair. Why am I so cold? It's all relative.
Yeah, you know, when you get a pattern like this one with a jet stream slicing its way through the center of the country, a big trough means really cold air across the west. A big ridge means really warm air across the east. And then, of course, you've got the battleground in between with rounds of storms, flooding rains, and potential severe weather on top of that as well. These temperatures are just crazy. There's no real other way to put it. When you're going to be talking about July-type readings late this weekend into early next week for, say, the Ohio Valley or the Southern Great Lakes, and at the same time, a snowstorm coming out of Wyoming and going towards Bismarck. It's early for that. Maybe not record early or anything, but it's early, all right? And so it is this pattern that connects the cold on one side and the hot on the other. And again, here come those storms in between. Yes, we mentioned the snow potential in the cold. On the warmer side, heavy rain, thunderstorms, severe weather, day after day of a flood risk, all because of this very pattern. And then maybe a tropical entity to boot, right? We've been watching this invest area down by the Caribbean. It's going to be coming towards that ridge. And because the jet is here, the flow out of the Gulf is open for business. South to north, steering whatever forms towards the northern Gulf. So even if it doesn't get organized, which, spoiler alert, and I'm stealing some of Dr. Nab's thunder, the models are saying it will get organized. But even if it doesn't, that tropical moisture is coming in thanks to that pattern. So, Alex, this pattern is crucial in determining everybody's weather all at once.
Yeah, it's all connected. And Dr. Nab, let's get back to that area that Mark was just talking about. Now an invest, and again, looking likely that this will develop. Now, still a question of whether or not it develops into a tropical depression or a hurricane, but really all are on the table.
Yeah, and either way, it's going to, again, like so many systems that we've dealt with in the last few years, going to be a water problem in Central America and in parts of the southeastern United States, in combination with the rainfall and flooding issues we've got through the middle of the country that we'll continue to talk about here on Weather Underground, because we've got that ridge trough, I'm sorry, do that the other way around, trough ridge pattern in the continental U.S., and then south of that eastern ridge, we've got a trough over the Gulf of Mexico, and so there is some wind shear going across the northwestern Caribbean, and that could limit the development of this system near Central America in the short term, but it's probably not going to keep it from developing ultimately. If you look on the visible imagery, this is all in association with our Central American gyre, broad area of low pressure that tends to form over Central America in October, kind of like it does in the early part of the season, like in June. And we've got an area of low pressure just off Honduras on the Caribbean side. We've got one on the East Pacific side, and they're going to combine to create the high risk of heavy rainfall, flash floods, and mudslides in Central American countries here for the next several days, much like the early stages of Nate did just about 1 year ago this week. So here's the broad area of low pressure that's trying to take shape over the northwestern Caribbean. Hurricane hunters are tentatively scheduled to fly into the northwestern Caribbean on Sunday, when this presumably will get a little bit better organized than it is now. This has a 7 out of 10 shot, according to the Hurricane Center, of becoming a depression or storm in the next 5 days. but a 40% chance in just the next couple of days. So this could form this weekend on its way to the Gulf of Mexico, but it could wait until it gets to the Gulf to develop. The colors are the low-level spin, and here in the European model, look at this. Tuesday into Wednesday, we could have a depression storm or even hurricane, Alex, approaching the northern Gulf Coast. Get ready this weekend.
Yeah, start thinking about it. Make sure your preparations are all set. Across the Midwest, it's get ready for rain. Rain, and more rain. Taking over parts of the Midwest, you're looking at Wichita and Chicago. In the Windy City, you'll probably be on the lower end of the rainfall range, thinking about an inch this weekend. But Wichita, as we go through the next few days, you could see 3, 4, even up to 5 inches of rain. And tonight, you've also got a severe weather threat. Now, we're not talking dinner time. We're talking late evening and overnight. That brings the best chances of the thunderstorms to this area that's already highlighted. We've got a lot of sunshine right now in this region. Very little in the way of clouds, but we think the showers and thunderstorms will develop here as we get into the mid and late evening. Right now, we've got 2 severe warnings here up into the panhandle of Texas. Lamb County here in Earth and Spring Lake, you're under a warning for the possibility of hail and damaging winds. And then Cochran, Hockley, and Terry counties under a warning until 6 o'clock local time, also watching for the same threats, hail and gusty damaging winds. Future radar, I want you to watch this area because this area was our region that we are concerned about the possibility of severe storms. Well, the storms don't begin to fire, maybe a few around 7 o'clock into central Kansas, but really get going as we get towards 8, 9, 10, and 11 p.m. Now we're at midnight. We've got the storms across parts of central Kansas, back into the panhandle of Texas and Oklahoma, and they'll continue to drift off to the east-northeast as we go through the overnight and morning hours of our Saturday. So could be waking up to some heavy rain showers, even storms in Kansas City, parts of northeastern Kansas as we start the day Saturday. Mark, if you're looking to sleep in on Saturday morning in some of these areas, maybe harder than you think.
Yeah, although some people love the rain and the thunder as like a sound machine to keep going in that sleep. In other news in the Midwest, Chicago is getting ready for the 41st annual Chicago Marathon. Easy for me to say. 45,000 runners will be out there hitting the pavement this Sunday, and it happens very early in the morning. So you think marathon, and you have to worry about hyperthermia, right? Overheating during the race. Well, in this case, because of rain and you're out there before sunrise, maybe some hypothermia, right? You could be quite cold. It could be chilly. Hyperthermia not out of the question in this setup. You do not want to be out there without extra layers if it's going to be raining. Now, there will be some storm potential, northern Indiana, southern Michigan, northern Ohio into Pennsylvania. Let's time that out for you because it comes through the Chicago area early Saturday and then continues east from there. So we do have to watch out for the first line of storms. So that's kind of prep time for the Chicago Marathon still. It happens Sunday morning. So this line of storms later in the day, actually probably this line of storms later in the day, takes over with the severe potential as we get into the afternoon hours, right? We get into that daytime heating, a little bit more conducive. Notice what happens on the line of storms, individual cells that could have some hail and some wind with them. And then here comes the next round. This is the one that could get you early Sunday when you're out there waiting for that start. There could be some showers for you, Chicago. Also tomorrow, further south, we are talking about that chance for severe weather in the same exact spot that it's happening right now, from the Texas Panhandle down through deep South Texas and into the center of the country. This on Saturday will kind of be several Boeing segments that blast on through. It looks like wind damage might be the biggest threat on Saturday across that severe zone. By Sunday, a tornado threat across portions of southwest Texas as well as New Mexico. So that's something we got to watch as well. Alex.
All right. Mark using words, Dr. Nab, like several repeated rounds. And when we as meteorologists hear that word, we immediately start to think about the trouble. And when it's rain that we're talking about being repeated, we know flooding's a big concern.
Yeah, whenever you get a locked-in pattern, when things don't move very much, that's when flash flooding and continuous day after day of stormy weather can take hold. And this is not like Florence with a tropical storm coming in and sitting over you, but it's not completely different because with the trough ridge pattern that's already taking shape, pretty much going to stay locked in for the next several days. The middle of the country, it could be in some ways similar to a stalled out tropical storm. So you get days and days of rain in areas where we've got high river levels, and we could have a lot of flooding concerns. And what you see on the radar right now is the beginnings of this with the scattered thunderstorms in portions of Iowa. But all of these green rectangles are flood warnings associated with very high rivers that are a result of so much rainfall in recent weeks. So that combination of what the atmosphere is going to do and what the rivers have already done could lead to some long-term flooding issues. But flash flooding is likely as those storms start to really ramp up overnight into tomorrow morning into northern Illinois and southern Wisconsin. Then tomorrow into Sunday morning, it extends all the way from West Texas up into Chicagoland. Then it ramps up more in Oklahoma, Kansas, and portions of Texas on Sunday. And then into next week, this jet stream pattern is going to stay locked in place, Mark. So when we total this all up over many, many days, we could be talking about inches, maybe more than a foot of rain in some isolated spots in the middle of the country in places that have already had too much in recent months.
Yeah, and it's really such a story of the haves and have-nots across the center of the country. You look at a place like Topeka or Kansas City, you're actually in a deficit and could use some rain, although you could probably do without getting a foot of it within a day or two, because that could be too much of a good thing. Meanwhile, Sioux Falls, Madison, Waterloo, all of these areas are more than a foot in the surplus for rain. And the soil moisture is very high, and you could wind up with some flooding. So even as there is building drought in East Kansas through Kansas City, there's actually a corridor of exceptional drought, including the Kansas City to Overland Park metro areas. You wind up with no drought at all. In fact, too much water and a flood threat across portions of the north. That's where the soil moistures are so high. From outside Des Moines to outside Milwaukee, this corridor might flood first, but don't be fooled around Kansas City. It's been dry, but there's a lot of rain on the way, Alex.
Yeah, a lot of rain, and it's a good thing, but like we saw in parts of the Southwest with Rosa's moisture, areas that need it, if you get too much too quickly, then you get flooding. Kansas City right now is quiet, 77 degrees on the thermometer. Mark showed you the departure from average there at Kansas City International, about 7 inches. But how about downtown? Over 18 inches below average year to date for rainfall. In Kansas City, you've got substantial rain chances coming Saturday and Sunday, both offering up a good possibility of thunderstorms. Monday, they'll be hit or miss, but more thunderstorms expected into our Tuesday. Next fully dry day in the forecast doesn't arrive until Wednesday of next week. And Kansas City metro area looking at 3 to 4 inches. That's a good bet for how much rain you'll see between now and early on Wednesday. So only looking at about 5 days, but quite a bit of rainfall. And that's why we are concerned about the river and flash flooding potential. In Wichita, 4 straight days of thunderstorms. Thunderstorms likely Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. Temps warm each day, going from 57 Saturday to 69 Sunday to mid-70s on Monday. So temperatures will be warm, mildish, I should say, with a lot of rain, though, on the way. You're not going to be outside taking advantage of those temps. 5 to 6 inches of rainfall likely in Wichita. And in Oklahoma City, rain chances remaining on the high side Saturday, Monday, and Tuesday. And they're still possible, those showers and thunderstorms on Sunday. Oklahoma City Metro likely dealing with 2 to 3 inches. But, Mark, some of those areas just to the west and northwest of town could pick up to a half foot.
Unbelievable how much that rain is coming in for day after day after day, which could lead to more flash flooding. So that is something that is at this point expected to trigger flooding, right? And although floodwaters may not look all that threatening, flash floods are incredibly dangerous, and they can strike with little to no warning. Jim Cantore shows us what to do if you get swept away by raging waters.
While working with Jim today, the first thing we taught him is what to do if I accidentally fall in.
Well, the first thing I had to do was float on my back with my feet out of the water. You never want to get your feet caught in the rock. Once I'm comfortable enough there, I would roll over and just swim aggressively towards shore.
Get out! Dig. You have to stay calm because you want all your movements to be purposeful. If you're out there thrashing, splashing about, you're not accomplishing anything.
You're gonna live today, Jim.
One of the scenarios we did with Jim today as well is we put him on a rock. He's stranded on an object. It could have been a car, it could have been a house.
I had to holler and let the rescuer know where I was. Throw me the rope, throw me the rope. I was in a position where I wasn't gonna lunge for it.
Great shot.
and then I put the rope over my shoulder.
And then he ferried across, swimming with assistance of the rescuer.
Good job, buddy.
The third scenario we had Jim in today is called a live bait rescue. It's a rescuer on a rope tether.
We know we see rescuers downstream. We have to get down to them.
We went about a quarter of a mile down the river, and it's amazing how fast you get down that river.
All right, guys, I'm about to be rescued here. We're going to be pulling it from the water.
Look at me. I've got you. I've got you. Let me hold on to you.
I've got you.
Survivors always need to follow the instructions of the rescuer. Once the rescuer has their hands on them, they have to let us be in charge.
The number one thing that I walked away from today is that you absolutely have to work this river. I can tell you one thing, after going through this today, I think I could get through a flash flood.
Well, soon those summer deluges will turn into winter snowstorms for places.
And a few cities already got a head start on snow. Look at places that could see up to 2 feet of snowfall.
It's coming, and it's coming early. Snowplows pulled out overnight in Utah. Hikers in Colorado caught their first snow of the season. So did shoppers in North Forks, North Dakota. It's Grand Forks, North Dakota. And in 48 days, opening day, but already a half foot of snow on the ski lifts at Montana's Big Sky Resort. More snow expected to fall there every day through Tuesday. All right, Mark, would you like to duel?
Yes.
Let's do it. We're going to duel. I would like to duel on the part of winter because we've got dueling seasons, people, and winter has taken over across parts of the West. Highs 20, even 30 degrees below average in spots as we go through Saturday and Sunday, especially across the plains, getting into sections of, say, Utah. That's where the real cold is going to be felt, where you're going, boy, this doesn't seem like what we're supposed to have this time of year, because it's not. In Bismarck, your average is 63. We're going 30s, though, by Sunday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, even Friday. And when we're in the 40s, they're low 40s at best. So we're staying at least 20 degrees below average through the next 10 days. Then we get you into the Casper, Wyoming area. Average high there, 64. And as we pointed out throughout the show, 32 on Wednesday puts you 32 degrees below average, in addition to only a high at the freezing mark. How about the 50s coming by the middle of the month? You're going to love that. In Casper, average first measurable snowfall would come on October 3rd, your average first inch October 8th, and it should be right on time. You know, looking at a rain-snow mix on Sunday, changing over to snow Sunday night. So not unusual for us to get the snow there in Casper. And in Casper, by the time all is said and done, ending late Wednesday, or rather early Wednesday, we can pick up 5 to 8 inches in the lower spots, but around Casper, I think 8 to 12 inches. A good bet. The Black Hills, that's where we could pick up to 2 feet, as well as the higher elevation of the west. So Mark, I challenge you
That sounds
to do
terrible.
better. No, I love
Just
it.
sounds awful. I'm already over. I'm already over winter.
But it's
I'm
not,
over
it's
it.
October.
Doesn't matter. I'm ready for the next summer.
All right.
I'm over winter already. And which is I live in the southeast. Maybe it's for a reason. It's cooled way down in Atlanta now. It is comfortable. You can go outside, maybe eat outdoors. It's 90. It's 90 now. It's great. I don't understand why you would say that.
You eat outside when it's 90 degrees?
Sure, it's beautiful.
I'll only eat ice cream outside, and even then you got to eat it fast because it's melting.
All the more reason to eat more.
That's true. I need more ice cream. My ice cream melted.
I don't see any problem with this.
You know what?
In any
You're
case,
a genius. I get it.
Yeah, you're staying above average and maybe even above 90 for the 4th day in a row. Saturday would be number 4 in a row. It's never happened before in the month of October. So as much as I love the heat, it's a little bit, it should be, making you a little nervous that is even possible. Latest 90-degree reading is October 9th, and it doesn't look like we'll get quite there. We're going to stay warm, but it looks like our 90 streak is going to be done at 4 days. A stair step back down close to 80, then even some 70s if we get there in, let's say 10 days time, because we start to get towards that la-la land forecasting. The Weather Prediction Center and the Climate Prediction Center have almost never been this confident when it's going to be so far above average in one spot and so far below average. They're like, this forecast, we got this. We got this down pat.
Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty much a slam dunk there for them. You thinking what I'm thinking right now?
Is it ice cream?
No, it's pizza. Even better.
Okay.
Friday night pizza forecast time. So we pick the best place in the country to order yourself a piping hot pizza. And we think Chicago may be it. Kind of gloomy out there now and thunderstorms on the way. What are you getting on yours?
In Chicago or just pizza in general?
Just pizza. You're going to get a Domino's pizza. What do you want on it?
Gonna go mushroom tonight.
I love mushroom too.
Hey, we
All
can
right.
split.
We can split. Deal. Oh, and tip your driver. Don't forget. D9.
Don't adjust your television set. You don't have to hit the side of it. It's not just some snow on the screen. It's actually snow on the screen.
Well, you really ruined it for that guy who was like, oh, honey, the TV's broke. We got to get that new 68-inch high-def awesome TV.
Am I the only one that still has the black and white and a VCR attached to it?
Well, no, now that guy does because his wife just said, but Mark said there's nothing wrong with the TV.
Nah, nothing. It's snowing in Park City, Utah. Despite the fact that you're finally seeing some fall color, now you've got some white on top of the mountains as well.
I guess that just adds to the ambiance,
Yeah, it's
right?
pretty cool.
Park City's mountain, the ski season doesn't even start for another 47 days, but
luckily, if you work there,
Yeah.
they're probably taking a couple of runs.
Yeah.
I mean, why? How could you not?
Why not?